Hello, I am going to be taking apart a Farmall 450 distributor, and basically just wanted to make a little video, so if you have any questions you could follow this. I am going to be replacing these little tiny springs for the advance on the distributor. Mine were getting old and not actually working at all. These are actually the old ones, and I've actually rebuilt this already. So I'm just going through the motions again, just so everyone can see how it's done. Okay, here we go. First of all, take your distributor off, make sure you mark it where you had everything aligned. So when you put it back onto the tractor, it's close to alignment. Okay, first, simply just take off the rotor. Hopefully it comes off. I had to actually pry mine off, and I actually chipped a little plastic off of it doing it. And take off the dust cover. I'm missing a felt washer in here and the actual gasket here. So probably be ordering that in the next decade or so. We'll see how it goes. So here's basically the innards of your distributor. Got your points, and you can see when it moves, it opens up the point right there. The gap that you need for a Farmall 450 is 0.02. Probably goes for a lot more tractors than just the Farmall 450, but okay, here we go. Basically, you start taking off all the little bolts and washers and try to keep them all aligned and so you don't lose them. So, okay, first let's take off the cap. I did it last time. If you took off all these little screws and then try to turn this whole plate just starts spinning around, so it's a little bit harder. So I'm gonna do the cap first so it doesn't spin around. And it's a little hex key. So okay. That comes off, and then basically what's holding this on is that little nut right there. So we just start taking stuff off. Okay, and that just comes right off. And then we keep taking that off. Little nut, there's a little washer, a little lock nut washer. That in there, and then you should just be able to pry this point off. It just comes right off of this little shaft. Ta-da! Comes off. So now that little washer right here. Okay, so now we just start taking more off. Take these little washers, ceramic washer, this comes, the whole thing comes out. Okay, now you're just left with these 3 little screws. So let's take those off. And then basically what's happened with mine is the springs were so loose that even at idle RPM, it was the weights were actually moving out and causing it to advance and if you hit a bump or something like that, the weights would move, and so the timing would just fluctuate all over the place. Okay, boom. Okay, so now everything's off. This plate just moves around and just gotta wiggle it out. I'm not going to unscrew the actual point contact because I don't need to. Like I said, I already shined these up really nice so it have a nice good connection. And now we're going to remove the weight cover plate so we can get to these springs. All that is 2 little screws again, and if you don't hold the very bottom, it's just going to move around when you try to turn it. So just hold this tight, and these screws aren't on too terribly tight. And it does help if you have a magnetic tip screwdriver, so you can do that. And let's take out the second one. Okay. Okay, now the plate should just come right out. So again, shine this one really nice up. This whole thing, all these looked basically like this color. They were really bad. Okay, so here's the guts of it. So here's the weights that move out when the RPM gets a little fast. They come out and they move this back. I have a 25-degree plate in here, so you can see there's a little hole right here, and it can move back and forth as far as that hole is, and that's 25 degrees. So it moves out when you go higher RPM, and then when you go slower, it starts to come back in and then come all the way in like that. So that's how that works. Now, next you got to do is, I get a pair of needle nose pliers. I have the 90-degree turn ones, and basically what you do is you just try to grab on one of these and lift it out. So, and then basically replace it. So I took these old ones out, replaced them with these new ones. As you can see in here, there's a little washer on this right here, and on this one. When you take the spring off, they kind of want to come out and go wherever, so make sure they're just back on there when you're putting the springs back together. It takes a little bit of finesse to get these springs on, so I'm not going to take mine off anymore, but so I wish you the best of luck getting the springs off and putting the new springs back on. So that's pretty much how you take it apart. So now, if we put it all back together, you basically go in reverse order and hope that everything works out. So first I'm going to put the little screw-in washer in, and we will see if I can get it in there without dropping the washer. Yay, got that one. Got that one in there. Now the next one, put that back on. And then we line up the hole and hopefully get that going in there. And yay, so they're both in, so, well, I lied. I actually see no washer. There's the washer. Again, magnetics are your friend. Okay. Let's try this one more time. It's gonna work. Okay. So now you hold the bottom again so it doesn't spin on you. And you just tighten them up. Okay, you're not reefing on them too hard. You know, this is a distributor, it's not a crankcase or anything like that. So make sure everything spins nicely. It's not scraping on the sides. Okay, now put this on. It only goes on one way. You can see there's three connectors here, and then there's one missing here. This one goes to the one that has the I don't even know what this is called, but the one that comes from the distributor coil right there. So here we go. Let's take that back out and put this in. Then we start lining up the holes for the screws. So let's do this one just because it's probably the easiest to start. So that's started. Now we put the clips on. Just start them by hand. We can tighten them up in a little bit. Okay. So tighten up. Tighten up. And tighten up. Okay, now we start putting the guts back together. So put this in. Okay. Then you put the ceramic washer on, and then this had a washer on it after that, and a little nut. So let's see. Give that a little snug. Ta-da! Put the other one back on there. This comes from the coil, so just tightens on there. So now we need to put the point back on. So it only goes on one way. Get it onto that shaft right there. Make sure that goes down. You can practice it and see it moving. So that's ready to go. And then we put the capacitor back on. And hopefully it goes on easily. Okay. snug so it doesn't move. Okay, now this just goes on to that little shaft right there. And now we do the fun stuff. Oh, darn it. I forgot to put this little washer on the other side of this. So let's just take this out really quick. Put that washer in there. Luckily that's easy to take off and put back on. Okay, now for the fun part, especially if you have big fat fingers like I do. The fun part is getting the washer and the little tiny nut onto that and everything working out. So let's try magnetics first. Let's see. It goes on, boom. And then we'll snug this up when I start tightening it. I'll push that in while I'm tightening this. This is the harder one. Hopefully we can get that little nut on there and doing something. I was really thinking twice not to do this video because of this little tiny nut. It's just a pain. So just work at it slowly. You'll eventually get it. Probably a lot quicker than me if you don't have these fat little fingers, but okay, come on, come on, come on. So close. For the longest part of the video. Huh. Oh, just snugged on. Whew. Okay. And like I said, push this in. Make sure you have a good connection. Tighten that little bad boy up. But a little snug. Okay, now all you got to do, like I said, the gap on the point should be 0.02. I'm hoping it didn't change since I didn't actually change the strike plate. So I'm going to set it right on the top of this corner, right where it goes the highest. So we will do that. Get your little gap thing out. And see that it just fits in there. It's a little snug, but it works. So that's pretty much it. Put your dust cover back on. Clicks into place, and this only goes in one way, so you just spin it until it goes down. And there you go. And it's going to work like a charm. Okay, well, thanks for watching.